One of the big challenges is a low housing supply and big population growth, right? Aggressive immigration targets set by the federal government, Statistics Canada projecting maybe 50 million Canadians over the next 20 years.
The question of housing has been plaguing the government, and one solution up for discussion is raising some eyebrows. That is the idea of putting a cap on the number of international students.
There's an abuse in the system, and we have to address this in a smart way. It includes potentially looking at a cap.
I'm currently in a one-bedroom and a den. And the den isn't that big, and that's where my baby sleeps. The bedroom isn't also that big. This is technically a basement, and I'm paying close to $2,000 for it.
The focus has been numbers driven, numbers, and that's all literally that anyone cares about.
With high interest rates and low inventories in the market, it's really difficult for people to afford any homes today. And being a mortgage agent, I understand what the situation is when it comes to affordability. So we'll talk about how bad the situation is. We'll talk about what measures federal and provincial governments are taking, or the lack of them. And we'll also be talking about what can we control and what you and I should avoid at any cost in the next 6 to 18 months. So let's get started. Now first, let's talk about is buying even an option. If you're buying a starter home in a place like Kitchener, which is 100 kilometers from Toronto, you will be spending on average $750,000. And remember, this is only a starter home. Let's say you do a 10% down payment, and at a 3-year fixed interest rate of 6%, your mortgage payment will be almost $4,400, and inclusive of all expenses like property taxes, utilities, and insurance, your cost of ownership of this house is over $5,000, which is crazy. What's worse is that the minimum household income required to buy this particular house with these numbers is $180,000, which is a lot of money, and a lot of single people will not be able to afford this. Even for couples, it's not that easy to make this kind of money in today's environment when people are losing jobs. The net monthly income after taxes on the $180,000 will be about $10,500, which basically means if you're buying this house on this income, you'll be spending 50% of everything that you're earning net after taxes will go towards home ownership. And the worst part about this is $180,000 is the cream of the society. The average household income in Canada is way less, almost half at $92,000, which makes it almost impossible for an average household to own a home, especially in Ontario and BC. And renting is no better. If you are planning to rent a one-bedroom apartment, you'll be spending anywhere between $1,800 to $2,500 depending on the province that you live in. The average rent in Greater Toronto area is about $2,500. KWC, which is Kitchener-Waterloo, is about $2,000. Vancouver area is about $2,000 to about $2,500 depending on where you are buying. Calgary is $1,800, which was way less, and this is only a one-bedroom apartment, remember. And Halifax has also increased by almost 25% in the last 1 year at $1,800, and this is, remember, just one-bedroom apartment. And the rents have increased by 18 to 25% in the last 1 year, and it's partly to do with the influx of immigration. 1 million plus people entered Canada. That's part of the reason why we have seen such high rents. And of course, the other reason is with mortgage payments going up, the landlords have also increased their rents to make up the mortgage payments and not default on their homes. And if you are someone who is renting today, and if you want to afford these rents comfortably, you need to be making almost $150,000 of household income, which is incredibly unfair for someone who is new to Canada. Now let's compare Canada with other countries, and you'll see that Canada is one of the worst when it comes to affordability. So the numbers that you see on the screen is basically the median home prices in Canada to the median household income, and the multiple is 10x. And as of today, even if you're doing a 20% down payment, at best the multiple that you can buy a house if your income is $100,000 is about $400,000 to $500,000. And that's how bad the situation is. And if you compare that to our neighbors in the US, it's a lot more affordable there compared to Canada. Now we all understand, and especially if you are in the market to buy a house, you know how unaffordable the market is, and things are only getting worse. Canada's population grew by 1 million in the last 1 year. Canada's population is only 40 million. Just imagine, 1 million of them came in the last 1 year. The insurance regulator, which is CMHC, says that we need 5.8 million new homes. That's additional homes to what we have right now by 2030. So that basically translates into over 700,000 homes per year. These are all new homes that we need to build. What we built last year in 2022 was 286,000, so nowhere close to the number. And what we have done this year in the first 6 months, only 110,000 new homes. So at best, we are on track to do 200,000 homes this year. And there has been a lot of reports and articles where builders have stopped building because of high construction costs and shortage of labor. Not to forget the taxes and development charges that the cities are imposing on the builders right now. Now I did a simple Google search where I asked Google, why is Canada not building homes? And the answer that I got in the first line was there aren't enough workers to build those homes, and that's part of the problem. The short-term efforts that the government has taken are no good. Earlier this year, Canada put a foreign buyer ban on anyone who is buying a home who is not a PR or a citizen. And they said that this will solve country's housing crisis, which is far from reality, because if you look at numbers, in any given province, the number of foreign buyers buying in 2021 was only 3 to 5%. So at best, it only solves 5% of the problem. And one nuance that they skipped from this was foreign buyers can still buy commercial real estate, which is 5 units plus, and shops. So this ban is only applicable on residential real estate. Then comments like these by Finance Minister are laughable. They said that FHSA, which is First Home Savings Account, is part of the housing crisis solution. And if you know what First Home Savings Account is, I don't know how that solves this problem. If anything, it'll make it worse. Forget about all this. What they are saying is the average housing cost is $1 million, and therefore we are giving you a $3,000 rebate if you put the money into FHSA. And that might help you get closer to your down payment target, which keeps getting further and further away the longer you wait. I just don't get how this is a solution and how the Finance Minister of Canada can actually put these comments. Now let's talk about the recent article that was posted where the Housing Minister, which is Sean Fraser, and I'll talk about him in a little bit, but Housing Minister Sean Fraser said that federal government should look at capping the number of students. Now this was on August 21st when he said that. The worst part is that until like 6 months or 3 months ago, he was the immigration minister, and he's the same person who rolled out the plan of having 500,000 new immigrants every year till 2025. I just don't get how the same person as an immigration minister and as a housing minister can say two different things just 6 months apart. And on top of that, the new immigration minister, Mark Miller, said that Canada has no plans to decrease immigration amid housing criticism. Now, first of all, I just don't understand how students are causing the housing problem to get worse. The problem is supply, not demand. I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I'll still say it. Canada does need immigration to sustain them economically. The problem is they're not building homes and they're not building infrastructure in time, and that's a Canada problem, not a student problem. If nothing, students are coming here, they are paying the fees, and they are the victims because they are not getting homes to stay in. And there are a lot of students who are putting tents, and I've seen that in Kitchener-Waterloo, they are putting tents and staying there because landlords are charging them 5 months of rent, which they don't have. So I just don't understand the basis of this debate. Now, Justin Trudeau says that densification is the key to fix housing crisis, which basically means that they want to build more homes within Ontario, within the city centers. So this basically points to making more mid and high-rise buildings so that more people can live in the city centers. In order to do that, they have launched a housing accelerator fund, which is $4 billion for the municipalities to accelerate these efforts, which is in direct contradiction to what Doug Ford said, where he said that we need to build more houses on the green space, which the federal government has clearly not agreed to, and they want to build up. And then there are comments like these where Trudeau says that it's not a federal responsibility. How is housing crisis not a federal responsibility? It just beats me. Now, in the city that I live in, which is Kitchener, I was really happy to see this article where it says that they'll be building 10,000 half-priced homes. And then I read a little bit further and they said they'll build that by 2030. 10,000 new homes by 2030. That's ridiculous. That's not enough. That's not nearly enough to meet the demand, the number of students that are coming. There are 3 major universities. There are so many startups. There are so many people just from an affordability point of view who are not able to afford in GTA are moving to Kitchener. 10,000 half-priced homes will do nothing. And then there's nothing to back this plan because it says that they'll be building 7,000 homes for purchase and 3,000 homes for rentals. What if someone who is purchasing these homes sells it at a profit? There's no plan for that. Now, I get a lot of comments in my comment section on exactly this, which is that the rich should be banned to buy homes because that is in direct contradiction to a basic right to own property. The more I read these comments by the government, I understand that there is absolutely no plan. At least there is no plan to solve this problem in the short run. Now, it's not like there are no measures being taken. There are some measures which will actually work in the long run. For example, solving the problem of not enough skilled trades and not enough construction workers to build those homes. There are a lot of economists who have been talking about actions needed on the lack of skilled trade workers in Ontario. Canada also announced the first ever invitation for newcomers with experience in skilled trade, and those are the kind of actions that are required a lot more frequently in order to solve the bigger problem of supply. Now, in June of 2023, they also announced a $221 million fund to build skilled trade training centers in Ontario. However, a lot of these good measures are being done in Ontario and BC, which is also part of the problem. Because if you look at the Canadian population, and this is as per the StatCan, 40 million people live in Canada and almost 53 of those people live in Ontario and BC. And GTA, just GTA makes 20% of all of Canada's population. And Justin Trudeau just talked about densification, which means that the percentage of population, this 53% number in Ontario and BC, is only going to increase and make things worse. If you compare this with US, the biggest state, which is California, has only 12% population, and the biggest city, which is New York, only constitutes about 2.4% of the entire United States population. In my opinion, what Canada needs is more jobs in smaller cities so that more population can spread out and the impact on housing is a lot lower and spread out across Canada and not just in city centers of Ontario and BC, which is exactly what Calgary has been doing. They have been giving tax rebates to a lot of companies to move their offices in Calgary. There are so many efforts to create jobs there. Yes, Alberta's economy is still dependent a lot on oil and natural gas, but there are efforts being taken by the government to increase the number of jobs which are non-oil related. For the last 1 year, Alberta has also been running a lot of good campaigns to attract skilled trade workers to work in Calgary. And these are the efforts that are required by smaller cities, and Calgary by no means is a small city. It's one of the top 5 cities in Canada, but smaller cities like Winnipeg, Regina, Saskatoon, Halifax, they all need to put in equal efforts to bring more population, attract more talent, so that the affordability issue that we have in Ontario and BC can be eased a little bit. I understand that this video was a lot of doom and gloom, and we cannot control what the government is doing. What we can do is what's in our control. So if you're in Canada right now and a victim of this affordability crisis, there are certain things that we can do. The first one is you buy a primary house. Even if it's a condo, you buy a primary house, you get citizenship, you sell that house because it's your primary house, you do not pay any capital gains on that, and leave. Leave to US, leave to Dubai, leave back to India, and take all the capital gains with you. I understand that you are a taxpayer of Canada and you want to be morally correct in contributing to the economy. Maybe some people will be thinking like that in the comment section. But if affordability is a problem, then buy a house, gain all the equity in the next 5 to 10 years, take all that equity into a smaller developing country and live a really good life. The second one is that you keep renting in rent control environments like Ontario and BC, where the rents don't increase too much. If you keep staying in the same house, and buy investment properties for cash flow across North America. And last week I made a video on buying an investment property, the pros and cons of doing that as your first house. So do check that video out. The third thing that you can do is you can learn a new skill and increase your income. Electrician, plumbers, welders, mechanics, chefs, carpenters, all of these are 6-figure skills. You can make easily 6 figures. I know a lot of people. My electrician charges me $70 an hour. My cleaning lady charges me $40 an hour. So they are all making 6 figures, and it takes about 1 to 3 years to gain all these skills and make 6 figures doing this. And the fourth thing that you and I can do is start a business. And you don't have to start a fancy business like doing YouTube, being a mortgage agent, being a realtor. That's something that a lot of people do as default. But there are so many other businesses available like landscaping, snow removal, cleaning services, pet care, car wash detailing, packers, movers, caterers. There's a lot of demand for all these businesses in Canada because not enough people are doing it. And you might think that there are a lot of cleaning services available and there might not be enough demand, but that's where you are wrong. There are 1 million people who came to Canada in the last 1 year. There'll be more people coming in the next 3 to 10 years, and you need all these services to cater those new people who are coming in. So you don't always have to think really big when it comes to business. If the objective is to make multiple 6 figures, you can achieve the same objective with boring small businesses that can be scaled and make you millions of dollars in future. Because all the businesses that I've written here, they can be scaled by hiring more people who do things for you, and you can expand geographically in order to make 6 figures per location and not just 6 figures by you doing all the work as a landscaper. I know this video is really long, but there's one last slide that is really important that I wanted to touch upon, and I've done that multiple times, but I'll still say that these are the things that you should absolutely not do. And one is buying a house that you cannot afford with no plan. Just because your friend or your favorite realtor said that it will be too late if you don't buy today. Book a call from the description below, because my team makes sure that you are not just buying a house, you are buying a house with a plan. And it may not be in the next 3 months, but we'll make a plan on how can you achieve the home ownership dream that you have in the next 12 months. Every person is different, every circumstance is different. Do not see other people and buy a house out of FOMO. Make a very strong foundation, because it's probably the most important and most expensive decision that you're going to take in your life. The second one is thinking that working hard for financial freedom is negotiable. A lot of people say that it's unfair that you need to work so hard. You need to work 20 hours a day in order to make a living. It's not unfair. That's how it is. And it's not Canada. That's how it is across the world. We need to work hard. I worked 18 to 20 hours a day for the last 3 years in order to be in a position where I can take a 1-month trip without any work, without thinking about my mortgage, without thinking about money, but that came at a cost. So all the businesses that I talked about in the previous slide, they all require hard work, but yes, they will help you achieve the financial freedom goal that you're all looking for. Now, a lot of us actually work very hard, but working hard on something that can't be scaled is a problem. I see a lot of people working with McDonald's, with Tim Hortons. There's nothing wrong in doing that. There's a lot of hard work required. So you are working hard, but for minimum wage. And you cannot put someone in your place to work for you, and therefore it cannot be scaled. And therefore, if I was working hard on a minimum wage, I would rather do it with the cleaning services or as a mechanic or as a plumber, electrician, so that I can learn that skill, get that certification and qualification, and then scale that by hiring more people and building a business out of it. It's the same hard work, it's the same minimum wage to start with, but you can scale that a lot more. And fourth one, and that's something that I get a lot in my comments, and I'm pretty sure I'll get that in this video as well. The mindset of others are taking away from me. There are so many comments that I get. There are people who say that investors are the reason why normal people cannot buy properties. That's not true. These investors are actually working really hard in their active businesses, and they need a safe haven for their money. All the money that they cannot spend on themselves, they are putting into assets. And that's how capitalism works. And for everyone who feels that capitalism is not the way to go, democracy is not the way to go, you need to go to North Korea or Cuba to understand how anarchy works and how socialism works, and that's no better. That's all I have for today. I hope you like this video. Do hit the like button and do tell me in the comments what you think about what's happening around Canada in terms of affordability and what you feel I missed in this presentation. And do hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you do not miss any of these videos. मिलते हैं अगली वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए bye bye.